It's gaining on us.
Just keep going.
We're doomed.
Yeah.
You can't outrun a crate.
We gotta keep going. Wait, is it turning?
Yeah. Where'd it go?
Oh, shit, Ian. Go! My mother-in-law's coming! Run! It's more dangerous than a big ball of Krites.
Do you want to go get a sweat rag first?
No.
You look like you need your sweat rag.
Ian?
Chris.
Tonight, we were lucky enough to be sent a screener from Warner Brothers Home Digital Entertainment Network, and they are letting us know that we have to let you know that we got this movie from them in this way, and the screen has words on it. And now you know that. And that movie is Critters Attack, which comes out today?
Tomorrow. Well, today from when you
Today if we post it tomorrow.
post it. But,
Yeah,
but if you don't,
But
then
if I
it was
don't.
previous.
So it comes out the
Previous
23rd
day.
of July.
Indeed.
It is a reboot-ish of the Critters franchise.
Unclear.
Unclear. Because it does carry over some stuff from the original series, sort of. Anyways, what is it about?
So, wow, I'm so not ready to get into that yet. We've
my
got so many
God.
things to say before we
No,
get
we don't.
there, Chris.
There's nothing to say.
Hey, first we should mention we are huge fans of the Critters franchise.
They know that.
No, they don't. Nobody watches our other show, Crate Night,
God.
at Bite Size Critters Podcast, where we're breaking down the franchise 1 minute at a time. Please check that out. But yeah, Critters Attack is a story in keeping with the original Critters franchise. It's about an awkward girl with a dream that she can't realize, her brother who's obsessed with aliens, but her uncle and adults in general won't believe. And in general, it's one of these movies where the adults just don't believe the kids about the supernatural or extraterrestrial or what have you that is going on in the town. And of course, that is the Critters. Critters hijinks ensue. Dee Wallace is back. So we have a small to the story, but a significant change to the lore with the Critters added in. But this is, in many ways it feels like trying to just do another Critters movie.
Yeah. It is directed by Bobby Miller, who I listened to a podcast a few years ago. I don't remember what podcast it was, where he was talking about his movie The Cleanse, which is another small creature movie, and I think he hinted at possibly doing a Critters movie on that podcast. I never saw The Cleanse, but it made me interested. We watched the trailer. We were pretty excited for this movie.
Who were?
This movie's terrible.
We're gonna get right to it.
Terrible. Absolutely bad.
So we came into this with high expectations. We reviewed Critters: A New Binge a few months ago when that came out, and you came out on that one pretty negative. If you watch that video, I think I came out on it marginally positive, fresh off of it, but in the days and weeks following, I became more and more down on it and more depressed that we weren't getting good new Critters content. So we had a lot of our hopes resting in Bobby Miller's hands and the team here.
This movie's bad. It's not so much...
There's some things I like about it.
It's not so much the directing. It's the writing is terrible in this movie.
I think it's the writing is the
It's
thing.
absolutely atrocious.
I do appreciate how much of an effort they put into the puppets and the practical effects.
Okay, well...
they really went for it. I would think if you're telling me there's going to be a low-budget Critters movie in 2019, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a CGI schlock fest, and it's going to look terrible.
I agree with you on that they looked cool.
Yeah.
But, like, the puppeteering itself was pretty much non-existent,
I thought it was
right?
pretty... I was very
It always
good.
seemed like it was just a guy in a suit going like this, biting a guy's arm.
So that's a different issue.
Okay.
I thought the articulation of the puppets was very good, better than the original series.
Yeah, okay. With
Their mouths moved quite a bit when they were, and just generally doing their Critters thing. I think, and there's plenty of blood to this movie.
Yeah.
I think they could have gone harder with the gore. Like, I would have liked, it got an R.
This is R?
It's R for,
What?
I think so.
This is like 8 o'clock on a Thursday night sci-fi movie. Like,
but I believe it's rated R for creature violence. And there's lots of blood, but there isn't a lot of gore. Like, you're right, sometimes you could just see the critters just kind of gumming a person's leg and there's fake blood all over.
Yeah.
And I would have liked, it would have been so cool to get like a really hard, violent, like tearing flesh away kind of effects. Could have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, they don't put any, like for when I was a kid, Critters was scary because it was always the fact like, oh, I get down off my bed and this little furry ball's gonna bite my feet off. Like I was a constant like, you know what I mean?
For sure.
But in this, it's just too silly. Like in the original, it was comedy, but it was also pretty scary.
I don't know that this was silly.
But it might not be an intention. Well, we can get to some of the intentions of this movie, but like, how many times is that stupid puppet just hitting somebody's arm and it just never translates into like an effective.
They put a lot of effort into the puppeteering and that, but they didn't put a lot of effort into the gore the way I would have liked to. And maybe it would have been hard to do both.
Just the kills, like a lot of kills are just off screen, or like you see it come at you, and then you see it later biting on somebody. But like there was no interesting kills in this movie. And we'll get to some of the spoilers and this shit. But yeah, I was really disappointed.
I would say I could have forgiven a lot of that, but it just didn't have. I think the biggest piece that was missing for this from me. Well, one thing is that it didn't build to enough of a climax the way you wanted to, but also the town wasn't enough of a character. I think that's one of the things that's really characterized the Critters movies.
That, but not too much.
Like that, that town was its own character, and the way the whole town came together to tackle the problem, and the way the whole apartment building in the third movie had to come together to fight off the Critters, and the whole ship in Critters 4. Here it was really just your core group of 4 or 5 characters, which would be fine, but I don't know. It just wasn't. It wasn't as the scale wasn't big enough.
And in like Critters 1, the characters themselves you started to get attached to, even though they were not realistic. They were played up in a fantastical sort of way, but they were still relatable in some ways, and they were fun. And in this movie, these people were like not real people.
Oh, nonsense!
What, this kid who can only talk via a phone is just some stupid joke that is just not funny, and that's the character. Like that's just bad. You got the weird girl. She's quirky, so we're gonna make her quirky. Ooh, she's never been to a forest before. She goes to the forest and is like, it's a residual tree with nuts
you're way
on it.
overblowing.
No,
that.
I am not. How dare you,
she
sir?
has clearly been to a forest before.
Dude, but she acts like she has.
All of the.
She acts like
just
she has.
Just because she's excited about nature does not mean she's never been to a forest
this
before.
Is way.
I can't believe all the plant life we're seeing so far. Can anyone else believe it?
No, I can't believe it.
Me either.
Jake, look! Cloudberries. They have very distinct lobes. Do you see the distinct lobes, Jake? Like Hirschfern. Guys, come on, check this out!
If I went to an ice cream store and I was like freaking out about all the different flavored ice creams,
because you're a huge fan of ice cream.
And I'm like, oh my god, ice cream, got chocolate, yeah. This is how she was, but it was like trees and bushes in like a non-realistic way. It's not like they went to this Amazon rainforest that you've never been to. It's like I went down to the park and there was trees there and I'm flipping out.
A child who is excited about science is too unrelatable
She's not
to
a
you,
child.
Chris?
She's like 12.
Exactly,
She's
a child.
beyond that. She's beyond like the wonders
Not all
of
12-year-olds.
Okay.
And tell me Drea's not relatable. A character who has a dream that she can't accomplish and feels like there's nothing she can do to accomplish that goal. That's pretty relatable. I think most people felt that way at some point in their life.
That particular aspect is relatable if it had any sort of payoff at the end of the movie, which it doesn't.
She learns to hate college.
Who doesn't?
Spoilers.
I am so hot getting bothered up in here with Critters. I mean, you're searching. You are deeply searching for positive things, and I can see it in your mind.
I think you're exaggerating how bad it was. Like, it wasn't great. There's some things I didn't like about it. I'm disappointed by the movie for sure.
Oh, yeah, no.
But you're finding a very tiny thing and pulling it apart like it's the worst thing ever.
It's just a good opportunity here because, like we said, the puppets look cool.
Yeah,
and it's
I did very much like the design of the critters. It was a little different than the originals, but close enough to feel authentic.
For sure, like that's not the problem.
Yeah.
The production quality is all right.
Yeah.
Of the rest, like the lighting and everything, it's okay. Yeah. It looks like a TV movie, but
the audio never sounds terrible.
That's fine. Yeah. The acting is hit or miss. The main actress, I think she's all right working with what she has.
Yeah.
So like these aspects aren't the problem with the movie for me.
Actors were asked to deliver dialogue that was a little clunky, and it made it challenging. I thought the acting overall was pretty good.
Because the writer didn't know how to write a person to be a person. So this movie has 3 things of interest in it. You have Dee Wallace, who's underutilized, but she's hinted at it early on that she's tracking Krites.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you have the main character who has this plight of her mom dying and she's not fulfilling her dreams and she doesn't know how to go on with her life and figure out and that kind of thing. And then you have this.
And that mostly works.
Okay, but then you have this third thing of this new critter introduced who's basically Gizmo from Gremlins. And And so all these things.
I was disappointed by that element.
But all these things are semi-interesting that are never elaborated on or go anywhere in this movie.
I thought the introduction of, what did they call it? Bianca was the white gremlin.
Yeah.
Somewhat feminine in its features, a little bit more rounded on the teeth. It was a little cute.
Cuter version.
And you're right. For a franchise that has been unfairly called a low-budget Gremlins movie before, this totally felt like Gizmo.
It's Gizmo.
And it's just feeding into that narrative, which isn't a fair narrative for the Critters franchise as a rule.
No, I don't think so.
And then ultimately, for the story they were telling, what they were trying to do with that didn't really affect much.
Anything.
Other than that they were carrying around this thing in a bag the whole time.
If there had been a scene with payoff where you sort of saw Bianca attack the other Krites, but it was pretty much off screen most of the time. And if that scene had affected the characters in the movie at all, but it didn't. Their storylines are unrelated. But they're so interconnected in the plot. But then,
if you try and analyze Bianca's role to the story, it kind of falls apart any which way you look at it.
Yeah.
She just ends up being the cute thing they drag around the whole time.
Yeah, and then you get the Dee Wallace says one line about it, and it's like, wait, that's kind of interesting. Why didn't we talk about any of that during the entire movie? When they first introduced her, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. This is like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2018. Like, is this what we're doing? Like, we're this
Jamie Lee
unoriginal?
Curtis was great in Halloween 2018.
I know, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, is they're just taking that storyline and adding it to Critters? Like, that's what I thought they were doing.
I wouldn't be mad about.
But, again, that's so uninspired.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd kind of assumed, especially when the trailer dropped, that she was going to be a bounty hunter, which isn't entirely wrong, but I still don't fully understand what her whole deal was.
Okay, but let's examine. You have Critters 1, Critters 2, not so much Critters 3, but Critters 4 are all have very interesting sci-fi elements into them with other alien creatures and bounty hunters and such. And this reimagining...
And what is mostly a small-town horror kind of a feel.
But they definitely touch on that stuff.
Yeah.
And this
use more sci-fi
completely ignores that stuff. Like, you just have the critters crash.
I wouldn't say completely ignore, but they don't spend any time building on anything other than adding the female.
Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't sure if this movie was supposed to be a comedy either. There's lots of stupid moments that aren't funny.
Tonally, it felt like it was going for the original franchise's
You think
tone.
so?
I think that's what they're going for. I don't necessarily think they nailed it. I think, to me, a lot of what we've talked about, I think I could forgive if they just did a better job of establishing a consistent tone to this movie. Like, the first several scenes in the movie, it keeps jumping around in different places, which is fine. But then it was going for this score that was, like, epic, and like as epic as a Lord of the Rings or a Star Wars type thing, and it would change dramatically to match the tone of the scene without creating like a general tone to the movie.
So you want more of a horror movie?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, it is weird that these new critters both seem to lean more into comedy. When I always thought the comedy was about 30% of the critters.
I thought a new Binge was way more comedic than this was.
Yes, but I think even though I don't like a new Binge as a Critters movie, I thought as standalone, as its own thing, it was kind of entertaining, and I thought it was better than this. It was funnier, at least.
I did not appreciate the humor of A New Binge, but I think in general they went for it harder, and I respect that more. I think I did just rewatch A New Binge last night as well to kind of be fresh in my mind. I think I like that better, which is not to say I like it.
Yeah, exactly. If only somebody would have wrote a script. Instead of like reading notes off a napkin or something.
I would like to see a less tropey version, a little bit more horror. Hopefully next time. I'm sure we'll do it. So thanks Warner Brothers for sending us this movie. Viewers, please check out Krite Night, a bite-sized Critters podcast tackling the franchise 1 minute at a time. We're only about 20 minutes into the first movie. Go back and remember those original movies with us.
Jesus Christ, the sweatiest balls in here. And that's gonna do it for Critters Attack, which is a stupid name as well, so there you go.
That's fine.
It's dumb.